Welcome back to another episode of the Owl Talk podcast. This is Joe Palazzolo, and the theme of today's podcast is alumni clubs. Sigma Pi fraternity has a bunch of alumni clubs from coast to coast, and they take a variety of forms. Some clubs service regions, but most of our clubs service particular chapters or small groups of chapters in the same geographic area. Our alumni clubs operate a variety of programming for our brothers. You often hear about golf outings and annual reunions and Founders Days events, all being operated by alumni clubs. And as you might imagine, running an alumni club isn't something that just happens. You need good people with a great heart for Sigma Pi fraternity to run these things. Today, I'm very happy to welcome one of those men to the podcast. We are joined today by David De Filippo from the Orange County Alumni Association in California. David has an extensive professional background working in banking and finance, but today we're going to pick his brain a little bit about the work he is achieving with the Orange County Alumni Association. David, welcome to the Owl Talk podcast.
Joe, thanks for having me.
Maybe just to set the stage for our listeners, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Where did you grow up? What did you study in college? And then what brought you to Sigma Pi?
Yeah, I grew up in Orange County, Southern California, and attended Cal State Fullerton. And I joined the fraternity in the fall of 1987. And when I first it was when I was a freshman, when I first got to Cal State Fullerton, I was really drawn to the fraternity through kind of the athletic side, playing intramurals, and started meeting some of the brothers. And I was kind of hesitant at first to join the fraternity. But once I decided to make once I made that decision to join, it kind of rerouted the trajectory of my personal growth and my experience in college. So it was a great experience as an undergraduate. During the time I was at Fullerton, I was intramural chairman, I was a historian, and I was the sage for the chapter. So I was real active in college in the chapter, and that made my experience a real strong one. And so when I studied finance, I became, and I started working in the banking and finance industry, what you said, which I've done for the last 30 years. But being in the fraternity and actually, managing budgets and when I rushed the house, we had about 60 guys, or my pledge class was initiated about 58. So we doubled when I joined it. And so we had a nice run of strong chapter growth and a really strong brotherhood. Winning the Grand Sage in 1988 award was a nice, the chapter win the award was a nice experience. And so when I graduated, I wanted to kind of keep that experience going. So I had a really strong undergraduate experience. So I joined the national chapter and I became a consultant for a year. So I was able to travel the country and visit, over 20 chapters throughout the year. And it was a great experience for me to see the country and really meet brothers from all around from everywhere in the country. And once I got back from that, I wanted to kind of keep that, Sigma Pi spirit going. And so the Orange County Alumni Association was something that for me was an avenue where I could, keep the, Sigma Pi, the positive experience I had as an undergraduate and put that into place with the Orange County Alumni Association. We had an alumni group that always did a fishing derby, and they raised money for a scholarship every year, which was, and it was one of the things I won when I was an undergrad. I won the scholarship. And I just remember as a college undergrad, winning a scholarship and having some extra money coming in was important. And so what was one of my motivations was to raise money, and so we could establish an endowment for the chapter. So that money could always be there to, for the chapter.
And what a great example of the virtuous cycle that we try to create, David, in that you won a scholarship from the Orange County Alumni Association, and then you go on to eventually help form new programming for the same association and help future generations of brothers receive benefits that they just wouldn't have otherwise had. I mean, you talk about what fraternities do. That's what fraternities do.
Yeah, and I really it was so for me to give back to something that I really had such a positive experience as an undergraduate, and to not only get to bring back alumni and get alumni involvement, but also to raise money for this future endowment, which is what we kind of did. So for about 20 years after I graduated, I did several fundraising events. One was a kind of an annual softball tournament that we did with the chapters and alumni, um, and which was a great event every year. And then the other one was a golf tournament. And those two events, my experience was you don't have to do a bunch of events, but if the ones you do, you have to do very well. And when you do that, you get a lot of people that return and they look forward to every year, and it's kind of on their calendar. And so we built up a strong momentum. We were able to endow the John Marino Scholarship. We raised money for that and over the years, and that's continued to grow. And then in the last 10 years, um, the softball tournament has not been, we haven't been able to continue that, but the golf tournament, we have a strong presence and continued support of that every year.
You mentioned something that I just want to highlight for our listeners, particularly those listeners who are working with their own alumni clubs or are planning to start an alumni club. I heard you say you don't have to do a lot of events, but the ones that you do, you have to do them very well. So, David, I wonder if you could spend a minute or two talking about how you take an event that might be an annual event that maybe has existed for years but is not done very well. How do you then elevate that event to be one that is done very well?
In my experience, it's been planning ahead and getting a lot of brothers and resources ahead of time. So the golf tournaments I was running in the beginning, I was able to kind of make it better each year. And so, and the more momentum I got, the more alumni and brothers to contribute to it, it was a better experience. And then that's kind of just generated, the buzz like, oh, we got to make sure so and so gets here next year, and they start inviting other people, and then you get more sponsors and more donations, and the event becomes stronger. And so that's why I think our event now we have a strong following and consistent sponsors every year. And then the brothers who come, it's like a great time because they get to see brothers they don't get to see all the time. They're giving back to the chapter. It's raising money for the fraternity, and they also get to interact with the undergraduates. So it's kind of a win-win. It's a networking opportunity for the undergraduates. It's a chance for them to get to see their classmates that they've gone to school with as alumni come back and connect, make that connection. And it's when they have that, when it's a successful event like that, they're willing to spend money and donate and be a sponsor. So sometimes, chapters like, well, I don't want to charge a lot of money for this event. It actually goes the other way. When you charge, a money and you make it a really nice event, you get the people that want to come and spend money and donate. And so and it took a little time. It's been, over the years, we've fine tuned it and we're able to get it to the level we're at. And so then now it's once you have that kind of base of sponsors, you're always looking for more, but you have donated prizes, you have handout, tea prizes and giveaways. So that makes the event, people want to come. And then the biggest thing is just the brotherhood, right? Seeing your classmates and getting to catch up with everybody.
I've run a bunch of alumni events myself, and I couldn't agree more with everything you've said here. I wonder if you could take us into this piece that you just said about how you fine tune it a little bit every year. And in particular, David, I'm thinking about those folks who are listening to us who have an alumni club. Maybe they've done 2, 3, let's say even 4 or 5 golf outings or Founders Day events, and they're trying to think of what can I do a little bit better next year? Is there an example, maybe just a quick, small example that you can think of something you fine tuned from one year to the next, or maybe from one year to the third year in running the programs for the OCAA?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it was, every year getting the word out and getting, we're trying to get the, start to get even more of a turnout, right? Getting people from different eras. And so sometimes it was reaching out to certain people from certain eras and say, hey, we would need you to call all the guys in your group and your the year that you were there and make sure we get some representation from your group. And so each year you try to expand it and get more and more people. And that even makes it, better. And then for the non-golfers, what we've done over the last couple of years is we started doing kind of a reunion that night at a local restaurant where we can invite other alumni to come participate, even if they're not golfers. And so that even gets more buzz out there, like, hey, we want to get more people here and kind of have it like a little bit of a reunion. So that's something that we've been promoting the last couple of years, and that's been, that's been one of the fun aspects of the golf tournament. It's all day you're playing, you're catching up, and then that night we kind of reconvene at a local restaurant that's owned by a brother that we can get other alumni to come in, golfers or not, and then get to everyone together and have that, continue that experience. So those have helped getting corporate sponsors and brothers who own companies. And we put different sponsorship levels out there. That makes a big difference as far as the amount that we raise. One of the things as an alumni association, when I started it, that I really was hesitant to do from the beginning was kind of charge membership dues every year to kind of cover the fees. Just because calling up someone and asking for fees for something, even though, they were they gives a membership, for me, I didn't really think it was the right approach. So I've always kind of built that kind of those underlying fees into some of these events, right? So the fundraiser, the golf tournaments, and everything else, we raise enough money each year that we can use that money as income to cover any of the national dues, any of the other expenses, and we put money away for the scholarship fund, and then we put some money as a reserve in for the chapter in case we need to help them with this stuff. So we kind of with the success of the fundraising and the amount that we've been able to achieve, we've been able to cover all the membership fees that normally would have to be paid kind of within the proceeds of the tournament, and then also supporting the chapter. And we give them a fundraising opportunity. So one of the things that we've kind of added the last couple of years too with the chapter is to give them some skin in the game is on the silent auction, they can go out and get baskets donated, and the money that's raised from that actually goes back to the chapter to use for their operating budget. And one, it gets the chapter out hustling and trying to make calls and getting things donated. Number two, they get them to the tournament and they want to volunteer because they know this is a fundraiser for the chapter. So and it's also a networking opportunity for them to network with alumni, and many of the undergraduates talking to guys who are in different industries and getting that kind of experience. So it's also become a nice networking event for the undergrads as well.
I'm sitting here smiling along and shaking my head because this is great, David. We really need to just take the OCAA model and try to replicate it in as many places as we can. I heard you say that you've got programs that evolve over the years and that get better. You've now taken an event like a golf outing and you've included a portion of it for non-golfers, which is me, by the way. So thank you for all the guys out there who don't golf like me. And I heard you say that you've now included a portion even where undergraduates get involved and they earn several $1,000s from each golf outing to use for their own purposes. I mean, my goodness, what a tremendous model that we should try to replicate. So thank you for that. And you also talked a little bit about how you've been very you've been very clear about not wanting to charge membership dues to members of the club. And this is something that each club has to figure out. Hey, are we going to charge an annual fee, or are we just going to try to bake the fee into our registration costs for events? Just if you want to take us into that mindset a little bit more, because I know from experience that conversation alone is one that some alumni clubs get hung up on.
Yeah, I think when I first started, um, running the OCAA after college, um, I was like, the thought of like calling, and reaching out to, 15 or 20 or 30 brothers and asking them for money every year. And then like, well, what's this for? I'm like, well, it's to pay national dues. And, sometimes there's that mentality like, well, where's this money going to? And what do they do for us? And that kind of stuff. And so for me, I can see the benefits of the national fraternity and all that it's done being, having worked there for a year and being involved as over the years as an alumni, um, advisor, and Province Archon, and but not every brother has that same experience. So it was a little bit more of a challenge when I was asking directly for for annual membership dues. But when there was an event they could come, it was a chance to see their brothers. It's a fundraiser. They'd come out and have a good time. They're more than happy to write a check, and then they kind of see the value, and there's a value proposition along with it. And then again, the very beginnings of this, I remember the very first one. It was, there wasn't that many guys, it was probably, I can't even remember if it was 40 or 50. It wasn't even that big of an event, but it was just it was just a kickoff one that was fun. And then you got everyone out there and get everyone doing it. And then, like I said, slowly we kind of grew it. And we used to get, this is the original kind of time frame I was talking about. We get over 100 people. We'd have like basketball signed by Michael Jordan, and football helmets donated, like signed by Joe Montana. And these are back in the long time ago, but it was like um, you know, high profile things that would be donated and put into the silent auction and help us raise the money. And those kind of, when you get that kind of momentum and you get stuff like that going, it was built up each year. And now again, we have a lot more corporate sponsorships, guys with companies who are able to write bigger checks as we got, because we've had them engaged for so long. So as they get, the alumni get older, they run businesses. There's a little more discretionary income, and so that's also helped us increase the amount that we're able to raise each year.
Yeah, you make another good point when you say the first time you got together, you just did it to have fun.
Yeah,
I often think that our younger alumni who are trying to start alumni clubs and alumni associations for their chapter and their brothers, they think, well, gosh, if it's not going to be this top tier level event, maybe we shouldn't do it. No, just get together and have fun with. That's what this whole thing is about, and let it refine itself over the years. And for our listeners to talk about how well they've refined the process over there in Orange County, your alumni club routinely wins Sigma Pi fraternity's #1 alumni club in the nation award. From what I can see, you've been on a streak. I think you've won that award every biennium going back to 2018. So, what does it take outside of just these events and programming? What does it take to operate an alumni club at such a high level? What does it take to put together this legacy of award winning success?
well, fortunately, myself, uh, I'm supported by a lot of really great brothers who see the value and appreciate what Sigma Pi has done for them in their lives. Um, but like I said, the original guy, the alumni, kind of that founding father group who started that fishing derby, um, they continue to do that every year, and that's one of the longest ongoing fundraisers that we've seen here in Southern California. So it's been over 40 years that they've had this fishing derby, and they raise, it's not a ton of money every year, but it's this, they raise the money, and it's just so that kind of that group of guys that's their passion is, and they do that fishing derby every year, and they raise it for the Alumni Association. Um, the other big fundraiser we have is a golf tournament, which is highly attended. It's a very successful from a fundraising standpoint, and and there's a lot of guys that contribute to that. So that's where so I'd say is within your network of alumni is tapping into the resources. You have guys who are good at organization. You have guys who own the companies. You have guys who can source free products. You have, like for us, we have the group that says that they run the fishing derby. That's what they do, and they've done an amazing job doing that over the years. They love that. So really, is building this network of alumni and keeping them engaged, so they're not just dropping off and you never hear from them again. And all the events that we've done, there's also some other younger groups within our alumni association that have different events through the year to keep that brotherhood strong. Whether it's poker tournaments, there's some other smaller golf outings that do it a little bit more for like fun and just to get together on some different levels, and then also just some brotherhood golf weekends like in Palm Springs. And so doing all those things have really kept has really kept our group active and connected. And so I think that when you do these events, since they're still engaged, that that they want to come out and be a part of it.
I love the idea of a fishing derby. I've talked to alumni clubs across the country. I don't think I've heard of anyone else doing that. That's awesome. And the fact that it's run by a select group of alumni within the chapter, and it's their thing. It's what they
Yeah.
want to do. I love that. I just love that. David, we don't do a good enough job of educating our new members of what should really be an obvious truth, that you are going to spend more time as an alumni member of your chapter than you're going to spend as an undergraduate member. Each year, I think Sigma Pi fraternity graduates something like 1,000 plus men all over the country. For the most recent alumni out there who are listening to this podcast, what is some advice that you have for them about being involved in Sigma Pi fraternity in their alumni years?
Well, yeah. I mean, the as an undergraduate for me, um, the guys that we went to college with, we have such a strong group of guys. We'll get together anywhere from 15 to 20 guys throughout the year for different things, whether it's golf or just the other day we played pickleball, and it was three of my pledge brothers from 1987 that we got together, and another brother who pledged in 1988. The four of us played pickleball, and so these are lifelong friendships that you continue to build on. And we were all in each other's weddings and bachelor parties, and just to continue that friendship. And the two other fraternity pledge brothers that we were kind of chatting about after pickleball, and we were playing some cornhole, and we were just kind of hanging out. And I was asking them, I'm like, gosh, looking back at it, look at that, 35 years ago when we pledged, would you ever have imagined this, this situation? And they just said, they were both said what an impact the fraternity has had on their trajectory of their life, and their direction that where their life has taken them, and in a positive way. So very strong positive feelings from our group, from the group of alumni towards Sigma Pi, and they see the value of not only networking through business and having connections in the business world, but the friendships, the connectivity, and the continuing to do events and lifelong friendships that that are fostered as a result of that. So, yeah, so keeping engaged, staying in touch. That's why having multiple events every year, getting people back, it kind of keeps you connected to the fraternity. They come back and remember the good times they had as an undergrad.
Great thoughts, great advice for those younger alumni who are listening. Let's talk about the future, David. What does the future look like for the Orange County Alumni Association? Are there still areas that you want to improve on? Maybe new programs you want to start? What do you think?
Yeah, one of the things that we're really looking at is, where's that next generation of leadership coming from the younger alumni, and getting and to be able to pass the torch on now that, after all these years, saying, so getting more of the younger alumni involved, getting people active. So when, eventually that this legacy will continue and you'll have that next, level of leadership and guys who want to take these events to the next level. Um, so that's the one thing that I'd say in the next, over the next several years would be to kind of continue fostering that, getting other people involved. We have a large network of kind of guys who have been doing this for a long time. We want to see that next level of guys kind of step up and take the reins and put their own stamp on it as well. So continue to do the events, the strong alumni can build that strong alumni connection, and then also kind of really develop that next level of alumni leadership so they can kind of take over the reins, down the road.
Yeah, I feel like there are many alumni clubs that are out there that are having the same conversation. And really, let's be honest, that's an ongoing conversation that everyone should be having about who is the next generation of leadership for our organization. So glad to hear that you all are already thinking about it. Uh, before we wrap up today, and thank you again, by the way, for sharing all this knowledge with our listeners. I wonder if you have any parting comments for those who are listening to the podcast today.
Yeah, for me personally, for someone who, when I first joined college, I thought I was too busy. I didn't, I wasn't gonna have the time to join a fraternity. Um, and then, once I ended up making the commitment to rush, or to join the fraternity, um, I don't know if you'll find too many people that actually have been more involved within Sigma Pi over the last, since that year. So just, I guess my point is for me personally, what an experience. I've really enjoyed the journey. It's, you know, all the years of undergrad, being a part of the national fraternity, um, gone to all the convocations, um, being involved as an alumni, running the Alumni Association. And for me, it's been a really rewarding experience. And I think that for sure, 100% the fraternity is, what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. So the more you put in, the more you get out of it. And, that's been my experience. And so, that's kind of been one of the main reasons for me to kind of continue to do this and to support the fraternity is because of the great relationships and great experiences we've had over the years and to really continue that legacy.
Well, and thank you for all that you do, David, and thank you for building that legacy for the next generation of Sigma Pi fraternity brothers. And thank you for being a guest on Owl Talk. Thank you to everyone who listened to today's episode about alumni clubs. For the latest on what's going on in the world of Sigma Pi fraternity, follow us across social media. We are at Sigma Pi, all one word, on all the major platforms like Instagram, X, and Facebook. On YouTube, we are at Sigma Pi fraternity, all one word. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, and we look forward to you joining us for the next Owl Talk podcast.